Okay, we are live and getting ready. Hello and welcome everyone as you guys come on the live stream. Thank you so much for joining us at the Akron Soul Train Gallery this afternoon. We are concluding Gina Washington's exhibit, Universal Child, with a special tour and discussion with the artist right here. As always, thank you so much to our sponsors who continue to allow us to support artists and bring thoughtful and innovative exhibitions to the community. Now, to get to the work, I'd like to introduce Gina Washington, a photographer and multimedia artist working with themes of family and cultural heritage. And I'm going to switch my camera. There we go. Gina, can you tell us a little bit about kind of the overall concepts with the show, and then we can kind of talk about some of the work.
Let's see. Universal Child is coming from my original piece back in the day, about almost a year and a half ago, called Monday's Child. And for those who don't know, Monday's Child is a poem that I grew up with that tells you how you're supposed to be if you were born on a specific day. So I am creating work, and I'm still creating work that is around those ideas. And I wanted to see in particular this poem that comes from a very Catholic, white tradition, Western tradition. How did it relate to me and my Black family, right?
Yeah.
Or did it really kind of like gel?
Mm-hmm.
So I took apart my family, and the days they were born, and I took all their stuff because I have it in my house and tried to figure it out. And to be honest, a lot of things kind of coincided, ultimately with how the poem goes. So, what else did you want to know?
Well, should we start with looking at the poem itself?
Well, if we walk over to the poem,
Yeah.
this is the classic version, right? Monday's child is fair of face. Tuesday's child is full of grace. Wednesday's child is full of woe. Thursday's child has far to go. Friday's child is loving and giving. That's me. Saturday's child must work hard for a living. But the child that is born on the Sabbath day is blithe and they say winsome, but they also say bonny and happy and gay. So, I gotta tell you, my piece really does groove with Friday's child because I am that. And the piece for my daughter, which is not seen here, is, Office of the Cleveland Foundation. Really does groove with her because she works hard for me in a lot of the different things that she does. So if we continue to move through the exhibition, what day is my grandfather? My grandfather, this piece I entitled At First Sight. And this is moving away a little bit from Monday's Child, but it's still within the same idea, meaning choosing that day where he was born. And I have to look at it. Born December 6, 1914. For him, he was all about my grandma. And to be honest with you, when I say love at first sight, he saw her when he was like 7 or 8 years old, when a baseball game broke up. And everybody had to scatter from the field, and he jumped on the back of a bumper, because in those days, the cars with the bumpers, this would be what? 1914, right? It would be like what, 1920, 1922? He was able to jump on the back of the bumper, and he looked in the window, and he saw my grandmother, and his heart started to go.
Wow.
Now, I know. When he told me that happenstance, I was like, oh my God, what is that? Right? And when he told me that, I just, love my grandfather even more because, the energy around the family, my grandmother's side and his side was, at the time I was around, was very interesting. It's the best way I can describe that, right? So with that said, all the work is here. And the family becomes here. I didn't want to cover him up with the family because I wanted, you know how when you get stuck in the mud, it's not necessarily a negative thing, but he was tethered to my grandmother. spiritually. And I know they'll always come back together again if one believes in reincarnation and anything to that effect. So all these little pockets, that was his soulmate, essentially. So the family becomes here, and the work is here, and part of her is here. She died a while ago, a long time ago, never met my daughter. And, we come into the house and we're taking care of him and doing the things we need to do for that. That's why I chose this image, because it was when he was super strong. He died strong, believe it or not. It looked a little bit like that, but a little bit more gray hair at the age of 99.
99.
At
Wow.
the age of 99. So I can talk forever about, One Piece.
I just want to, can I ask you a quick
Yeah.
question? So can you talk a little bit about the gold? Because I notice, and the viewers will see this as we go through, that you specifically put gold on only a few pieces. So
Yeah.
can you talk about the
Yeah.
significance of that?
The goal for me is literally just elevating them to that stature of, I don't want to say saint, but I'm coming from that Catholic tradition, even though I don't practice that religion anymore. Because for me that sets a sense of hierarchy, religion in general. But that goal for me, it just takes them to another level in how we look at portraiture, especially when we look at portraiture with Black folks, essentially. So I wanted them to be,
It's like a spiritual.
yeah, to be uplifted in that manner. And you're right, it's not with everybody. It's silver and gold. They don't have platinum. But all another bag of beans, essentially. But that's why I didn't layer this one with gold. I wanted it to be, because it's still so much of a, how do you say, his death, 2014, it's still very present, quite honestly, because I had his ashes in my So, and I got to get him buried with my grandma. So, that's a whole other background. But, that's what the gold represents for me. It takes that idea of portraiture with Black folks to another level. Gold or silver. I'm silver. And the reason that is because when my mom, when I was a child, my mother was an amazing woman, and her portrait is to the stage right of us. She never compared my sister and I, but my sister got a gold charm bracelet and I got a silver one. She's not around for me to ask, why did Louisa get gold? Why did I get silver? What's up with that? I was second child. You know what I mean? So I didn't put gold on me. I put, sterling silver on me. But I wonder what she would say, if she were alive today, if I asked her, why did I get silver? But I have my sister's gold charm bracelet, which I gave to my daughter, and mine got stolen.
Oh.
Yeah, I know it sucks because I was a super collector. Every link had 2 or 3 charms on it, right? So, and it was like amazing. So I don't know who has it out there, but I'd like it.
Karma will come to you.
I'm just saying. Yeah.
Okay.
But that's the silver and the gold for me, and not
Oh.
right now all of them have. They have one or the other.
Yeah. Which one do you want to move to next? Do we want to go across or down the
We
wall?
can move down toward my mom.
Yeah.
Now, my mom was an artist. My sister was an artist. They both were able to create whatever they saw. My mom did these little drawings of my sister and I when we lived in California. We moved there when I was like maybe 2 or 3. Earthquake happened. We got out of there. So with that, she created these pieces. This was our day. When I uncovered all this stuff after I got back from, literally burying my sister, I was like, oh my God, my mom made a book. This is what my day looked like when I was in California, which I think is hilarious. And these she actually made. I remember having those in a barrel somewhere when I was a child, but she made our clothes. She did all that. She was a tinker fairy. My grandfather was a tinker fairy. My mom was a tinker fairy. They can, create out of nothing. She was a welder. She made, she welded torpedoes, things like that. So she was pretty intense. I have to say myself.
Yeah, the day piece, actually, we had a high school group come in,
Yeah.
and they really resonated with this. I don't know if because they're kind of on that same sort of school schedule,
Yeah.
but they we're really, really interested in finding out, like, okay, what were they doing at this time and what were they
Right.
doing at this time?
Well, I gotta say, I'm interested in that too. I have a lot of her art, and I'm like, want to dig in the dirt of that. You know, and like I want to know, what was this teacher saying? The
Yeah.
American flag right there. Here I am out the door, right? And did she highlight my sister? I wonder, you know what I mean? In other words, I can't say which one is Lisa sitting around here. And look, even a bow tie. I'm just seeing that now when I think of it. And see, here's me with a pacifier, right? I didn't lose that pacifier till I was like maybe 6.
Wow.
Yeah, they did a whole lot of things to like try to get that out of my mouth, but whatever. So, and here, and with this section right here, that's my daughter. That's me. That's my sister. How much we look alike freaks me out, floors me at a certain point. And it's weird because in my family, at a certain age, all the girls looked exactly alike. It was weird. So moving from that to this piece, which is a lot. And what I didn't say, and I wanted to say on my grandfather's piece and this piece, I asked my daughter to write a letter to them, and she did. And I wrote that letter back on his piece, and the letter is also on this piece. So the gold is the letter my daughter wrote, and the silver is what I wrote to my mom. And the poem in the background is one that we had in the house that she kind of like amplified in our head, and that's the poem Desiderata. And the line that, you know, just I live off of is, you know, you're a child of the universe, which is where all this comes from, essentially. And that is akin to how I integrate my idea of faith now, because I don't want to prescribe to something that is categorized and puts you in a box and says, if you're not us, you're less than, or if you're not with us, you can't come with us, and you won't be here. You know what I mean? It's just that sense of hierarchy. I didn't want my daughter to have that judgment, because it says don't judge, but that's all it does.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's just me, you know, pontificating about my ideas of religion. You know, it's not for everyone, but you know, I'm a compassionate, loving person, obviously, because I'm born on Friday, and I wanted her to be that way. And that's another thing that made her life hard, because I say my mantra when she was a kid: children are cruel. They don't know how to operate until they're being mean to someone. You know what I mean? And she was not that kind of person, so that made her feel even worse when she saw that in others, and she tried to intervene. She was always like the mediator in that respect. But not all children are cruel. But you know, it's easier to be mean to somebody to learn who that person is and to learn who you are than it is to be loving to somebody. That's just how the world is. It's not with just kids. It's, you know, adults are the same. Social emotional learning is a thing. But I don't want to be mean to somebody to figure out how to interact. Or
Did you say your daughter was also born on Friday, or
is she what?
what day was your daughter born on?
She was born on Saturday.
Oh,
she
on
works
Saturday.
hard for a living.
Okay.
She's loving and compassionate, but she works hard for a living because of all the things she's had to overcome and go through to get to where she is right now. And she's still overcoming. We all are still overcoming and going through. We all are still becoming. But, you know, with this piece, I did a piece for Monday's Child, the first one, of my mom as well. But this one, I translated it completely differently because I wanted her art to be a part of it. And she went to Ursuline, and she was learning the westernized tradition of art making. So that's mixed in between her artwork is here. All this is her artwork. And all this is like other masters, as you would say, right? She truly was a master to me and was becoming. And a lot of the things here you'll find are her writing about art, people writing about whatever, because this is taken all from her journals. You know, she did a lot of writing. You know, what was that one that says something about the Arts Prize, or not the Arts Prize, but what was that thing that Cleveland does, the Cleveland Museum of Art?
The May Show.
Yeah, the May Show. She had something about, should I enter the May Show, or something to that effect. And I was like, dang, this is hilarious. You know, now it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Right? So I have the family down here. So this one, my daughter named this piece. In the writing she did, 3 girls, because she talks about that my mom had 3 girls, had me, my sister, and her, essentially. I'm like, that's a really beautiful way to talk about the woman you've never met. You know what I mean? And so that's where the name of this piece. So this is all of us.
Yeah.
You know, my sister's not here. It's just Matilda. So this is how we have. My sister didn't know my daughter. Only 13 months into my daughter's life. So we have all that mixed in between here. My grandfather, who I'm very obviously connected to, and I wouldn't be here without him, and my daughter wouldn't be here without him because he took care of us when I was pregnant with her, you know, literally. So of course my grandmother and my grandfather are part of this. But that's where this is kind of like becomes the top and the bottom. So I have the full house that I grew up in here because now it no longer exists.
Wow. Does it feel like a collaboration with your mom when you're cutting apart? Like, I'm sure that some of that is probably strange to take these things that are what you would consider like invaluable and then cutting them and putting them in something, but then you're creating a permanence
Exactly.
For these pieces.
Exactly.
But so does it feel though like you're collaborating with your mom when you're doing this?
And I like that you said that because I kind of just thought of collaborating with my daughter, but yeah, you know, because I'm using her art, her stuff, and all the things that we've come up with. So it is totally a collaboration, you know, kind of making her art live through me. And, you know, the same with my sister, you know. A little bit of her artwork is also on the piece. And this is my mom's artwork, translated differently. This piece always scared the hell out of me. It's called, I think she named it Dancers, but it's scary looking. But it's, you know, she did this kind of stuff, you know. All this is her stuff. You know, this is a drawing that she did that I, you know, created in cyanotype. And she was a serious plant person. She could grow anything. And this enamel piece, my friend, I think Colette was asking me, how does she do that? Because it's not enameled on the back, you know. So when you enamel, right, you got to do whatever on the back too. So I mean, I don't know. She's not into house, essentially. But I brought in her prom dress before we move over to my sister's piece because it's what she's wearing in that. And when I was younger, I created.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I created another piece with me wearing her dress. So that's why I wanted to bring that in. So it still exists. If anything, she, you know, the things that she touched, the things that she made. So, and that's what's in there. That's what she's wearing there. But we mentioned my sister. So let's move to Leza. L-E-Z. Right brain, left brain, fully engaged. Wednesday's child, full of woe. When you're the firstborn child, daughter of an alcoholic, you take in all the energy, right? You protect your little sister by any means possible. But she didn't. One day my dad could not stand about me. So I obviously talk a lot, but I also let out everything. You know what I mean? I tell you how I feel when I'm feeling it. I don't hold things in because I think that killed her. If anything, she was the one that held things in, and she formed colon cancer when she was 21. So it metastasized 2 different times after, and it ended. You know, that ended her life when my daughter was 13 months. That's why I say, you know, she took in that energy. And on this piece, this is her artwork. What I liked about it, this is her body before colon cancer that she created when she was at halfway round, and this was her body after, you know, cancer. And the one thing she wanted me to do when she died was to get her Earthsea trilogy books and bury them or cremate them with her. I could not find them. You know what I mean? And her husband at the time would not let me back in the house to even collect the art that was there, and the stuff that was there was my mom's. But my friend, her good friend in Zena, went back into the house and got the stuff and gave it to me. Thank God. And in that stuff, I found her book, Earthly Trilogy, which is a book, you know. She was a sci-fi person, right brain, left brain, fully engaged. She was a family practice doc. You know, I mean, she was super smart. You know, so I put her book in there with her, essentially. So it is too a collaboration, because this is all the things that they wrote about her. And what does it say? Lisa's stable classroom behavior is a steadying influence on her classmates. She was a real asset to Halfway Brown. I look forward to hearing good things about her in the years to come. I mean, you know, that's what you get consistently for someone of her caliber. I remember one time she told me when she was in a lecture at medical school, she had spilled tea on her leg and it burned, but she did not get up and, you know, yes, when she got up and pulled the skin off when the lecture was over. Yeah, the kind of person that, God forbid if I got a splinter, because then I was minor surgery in the house. You know what I mean? And she got a piece of glass on her knee, she pulled it out. Did we go get stitches? No. She just took care of herself. Ew, I was not that person, obviously. But, you know, she accomplished her life for a short time she was here. But the candle that burns twice as bright.
Yeah.
So I've always been flying under the radar. For a reason. A little bit of good, a little bit of bad in me. You know, it maintains balance. Just saying. I like to maintain that balance. But that was my sister. You know,
Can you talk a little bit about the significance of the butterfly? I notice it's in your portrait also, which we will see in a moment. But
well, see, I got a thing. Butterflies are free to fly, and they represent so much that we are losing in the world, so much that we need to like just stop and look at the beauty of that one creature. There's so much in variety alone. You know, just the fact that, I mean, they're so fucking beautiful. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Alone. You know, so I use that in both of our pieces because butterflies are kind of like my symbol, essentially. And you know, for me, this piece is literally just a conjuring up of my world and an explosion of trying to find that piece. It also represents the music that was in the early part of my life. I literally did cut up my music book from band. From Shaw Band, mind you, you know, and all the things that I can't say all the things, because there's a lot, I've gone through a lot, and most of it's here, you know, and part of that thing that's on here too for me is the animals that have come into my life, because I'm allergic to them, but, you know, I don't care. They have taught me so much. They were my introduction to unconditional love, not my daughter. You know what I mean? That was, I don't think I would be who I am today if I didn't have animals in my life. So I was born into animals. My mom was kind of like Dr. Dolittle anyway. I remember her, you know, taking care of my dog with distemper, going in and turning the pups around, and one of our dogs was having a hard time with breech birth. You know, I mean, it's like, who does that? Back in the day. But that's what, you know, like I said, for me, this is conjuring up all that I am, because I am stuff I'm trying to think of a standout, you know, in all the parts of my sister and I being together, basically. You know, because I think we had a really, different relationship than most sisters do. We did not, we had that energy of for a minute until my mom and just pounded over our heads, all you got is each other. The world can go to hell in a handbasket, you guys have this. So we had a very good relationship. We realized we could never live with one another. You know, I mean, whatever. You know what I mean? Because we were only 14 months apart. So, you know, we were that close.
My mom always said a funny quote to me as it relates to my sister, and it was always, you don't have to like each other, but you do have to love each other.
Yes.
That's what she always
My
said.
mom said that about not just my sister and I, but her. you know, even with her. And I'm like, oh, I totally understand that. When it comes to like having kids and all that stuff, that you gotta love me, but you don't have to like me. You know, it's like I can literally say that my dad loved me, but he didn't like me. You know what I mean? Because I was that in your face kind of like, you know, and I became sarcastic, you know. I mean, it's like, I called it like I saw it. And, you know, if you can't take that, to be honest with you, if a person can't take that, that says more about them than it does about me. You know what I mean? Because it's like, I am able to be true to myself, love myself enough to know who I am and what I like and what I don't like. And if you don't like that, we can agree to disagree. But if you know, if you don't like me because of that, then that's your problem, essentially. Because you can't even agree to disagree. You know what I mean? Which is a challenge. You know, and that's why I tell my kids when I teach, honestly, not every adult has it going on. We are all a work in progress. We don't know what trauma they came with before they got to wherever, and know what trauma they're dealing with. So, I mean, the thing that adults say, I'm an adult, you need to listen to, not necessarily if you're leading me into fire. You know what I mean? So it's getting kids to understand that social-emotional learning and growth is across the board. You know, it's not because you're a child and you don't know and you haven't lived in it. I've met some really amazing children who have way more together than the adults are doing. And it's not, you know, and that's not about right or wrong. It's just, it is what it is. This world is a hard space to live in, especially if you're disenfranchised and, you know, left up to your own devices for whatever reason. Not everybody can pull themselves up from their own straps. That doesn't exist for the, you know, BIPOC community, because we have so much that has fallen off the boat, and so much that we haven't accepted for ourselves. Period. You know, and we keep looking for all these things outside of ourselves, and it's first got to come from inside. So all these things have gotten me to the place where I'm in that. You know what I mean? Where I'm bringing myself up from the inside, because that's where the work has to begin. I can read every book on the planet. We don't do that.
Since this is such a personal show for you, like this is your sort of vulnerably showing parts, maybe even I'll use the word trauma because you said it before. What do you want the viewer to like? How do you want them to connect? And I heard some of it from what you just said, but could you, you know, like how would you want the viewer to come in and see this work and see themselves in this work, since it is so personal to you?
Well, I think it's cool when they figure out the day and see if that works, and they start going into their head about why is that? You know, and they start asking their own questions. And once they start looking at this and they see the work, not the physical work that I've done, but see the work, and because you can stand in front of a piece for like 30 minutes and get a lot, you know, and see all the work that happens in somebody's life for whatever reason, and how that person either overcame, is still becoming, is still moving forward, to not give up, right? To not give up on the process of finding who you are and truly loving who you are and truly sharing that with everyone around you. Because once you start to truly love who you are, and it's a daily work. It's a daily work. Because we walk out the door, like we're hit with something else, right? We walk out the door and something in the background says, don't do so. You know what I mean? So we have to find that. We have to steady the course and realize that there are no coincidences, and that we have to find that within our center of compassion and love and forgiveness of ourselves. That's really hard to do. You know, all the stuff that they've been through, you know, all the people that I've lost, you know what I mean? I say, at this age, you know, I'm an orphan, you know, essentially. Why is that? Because the disease process for, you know, Black folks is times 10 from everybody else because of the because of the systemic trauma, constantly. But I'm not gonna let that take me down. I gotta keep moving through that because I'm here for a reason. So I think I want the viewer to find that source that keeps that spark alive. Everybody's dealing with depression and anxiety in some form of fashion, situational, chemical, whatever. I don't want anybody to give up. It's like a soul thing.
See, I'm glad that you talked a little bit about the butterflies, because I always think of that symbol as something of a metamorphosis from something else. And you're talking about us always sort of looking inward and reflecting and trying to grow through whatever life is throwing at us. And so I do think of the butterfly as sort of an evolution of yourself.
Yeah,
so,
thank you for saying that, metamorphosis, because that is paramount, right? It's really, in this piece for me, like I say, from where I am now as a visual artist and where I was, we just had a conversation about my musical upbringing, right? Some people look at my lifeline and go, "There's a break in your lifeline," probably because I was 100% music and now I'm 100% art, less music than anything, but still art, and people look at that as a complete shift. For me, it's not, but for some it is, because it was a metamorphosis, it was a change, essentially. But
Okay.
I just love this one. I don't know if it's yellow. When an artist creates, and I tell the kids, it's gotta feel good. If it doesn't feel good, then you got something else you need to do. You gotta add it on or take it away. But this is my great aunt. She was my godmother. And she was what one would call, they call them like the lavender? What is it?
I don't know.
Well, she had a sixth sense. Yeah, so she was interesting. And she kind of taught me how to protect myself spiritually. You know what I mean? So I was at, what's that movie? Where Kid was I see dead.
Yeah, that is it.
The Sixth Sense.
Oh, that's The Sixth Sense. Okay. That was the two of us, essentially. So literally, she taught me how to take care of myself spiritually. And before she died, one of the things she was doing was making rosaries. Yeah. Now, granted, my family tells me she traveled or sampled all religions. So, like I said, we were raised Catholic. And in doing so, she ended up with being in a Catholic church and things like that. And she would tell the priest certain things and they wouldn't believe her, right? So, what do you do with that? Long story short, I just have all her stuff from her rosary making days. All her stuff. All her saints, all her rosaries, all the saints, and on this one, in the offering packet, there is money. Because I was going through these things and I found, I'm like, oh, she put this in here. I'm going to leave it in here and seal it up. The sanctuary. So, I think this one says what it says. And one of the things that I found that I thought was just so absolutely amazing were her guardian angel cards. And they're so very white. All white characters, all white angels, but they're here, right? Someone's tripping down a step. There's a guardian angel behind you. So all these moments, it's hilarious, essentially. And these are the flowers that were in I have 10 Bibles at home. And so finding the stuff in the Bibles and putting them on the piece. So the name of this piece is Revelation, because that's part of Revelations is here. And one of the Bibles that I found, and it's not called Revelation, it's called the Apocalypse. And that was one of the things she told me, oh, read that. I said, of course, I read that. And I was maybe 10. Ultimately, and because we had that kind of connection. And of course that scared the hell out of me, but that's a whole other story. But part of that's here, and that's why I named this piece Revelation, because she opened my eyes up to so many things, and yet, the balance or the imbalance is you may see, I was going to believe. And Um, but there's so much more to a person, essentially. You know, and I was a little kid. I was in college when she was finished. And the things that she's collected, you know, her family, and there was, again, you know, the people she loved, that she had in the Bible, everybody was about the kids. I had to put the kids and Martin Luther King on here. I mean, you know, I haven't fully processed this piece,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because I'm into it when it comes to making art anyway. So I'm like, I feel it out, and then I process. And so I'm still processing.
I mean, I have to say I've enjoyed having this piece right by the desk the whole run of this show, but I love learning now about these guardian angels because I did wonder about that. And then, but what I loved about her pose was that she looks angelic. I mean, I don't know what this photograph came from, but like even how light it is, like how ethereal it looks like. You know, it's a very.
You guys are free to come in and walk around. We're just doing that.
Yeah, I just love the way that you would have composed this. So, yeah, I think that's.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, this photograph is this small. You know, so I take a lot of my images and super scan them, high resolution, and I could blow this up even bigger. You know, and I go over it and clean it. There was you know, ultimately too. But yeah, that's who she was to me, and that's how I saw her.
And do you see her as your guardian angel? I mean,
Always.
Okay.
Always. Always. My great aunts, my grandmother's sisters, they were really interesting women. I mean, to the point where, you know, hearing about how she died and how that relates to my other great aunt, and how it was just like her sister it felt like it led to her demise. It's like, you know, what's that about? You know, you got these sisters and how they interact in the world and jealousy. That's the thing that my mom never wanted to happen to my sister-in-law. You know, we weren't jealous of one another by any means. So I can't say that about them. You know what I mean? That's how, when I look at my grandfather, you see that schism in the family because, you know, her sister, my grandmother's sister, it must have been jealousy that made them try to disconnect him from her family. You know, it's a lot. I could write a whole other book on just that part. But you know, all that's there. And she had real, you know, what I did not put in were all the images I found of her hanging out with other nuns. You know, she just traveled with, you know, other women. She never married, never had children and whatnot. And I'm like, I really wish I was conscious enough to sit down with my great aunt and like just pick her brain. I would get underneath the table with all the sisters. There were 7. While they were talking, and just listen to the stories. There were 7 of them. They had one boy. Uncle Buster. And but again, I haven't processed this enough to like fully put it into the universe and speak. Even when you like to see, that's why I used all the real items that I found at this point. And took things apart in that respect. Because I have so many of these. I can make a whole other piece of just that. But any other questions about this one? Or my process?
Well, we kind of talked a little bit before the live stream started, but we have gotten a ton of questions about the use of binary code throughout the work. So if you can kind of touch on that, and then I have a couple other, I guess, process questions, collage questions. Yeah.
Well, the binary code anywhere in any form is my connection to my music in the day, and my connection in wanting to, you know, whatever other creature can understand that by looking at it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because back in the day, I did it the first time in Room Select, and in that Room Select piece, I wanted to connect with all of the languages that I knew people spoke, and yet I also wanted to connect to the digital world, essentially, and maybe if aliens exist, which I believe they do, how could we only sentient creatures could they understand that? Ultimately, just like my binary code says, I am becoming. Some of them are short phrases. In my mother's piece it says, this is your mother. Because my mom would call, and my daughter during the pandemic found the love of analog, so she got this tape recorder, and she found my mother's voice and my sister's voice, and my mom would be, this is your mother, blah 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 blah. You know what I mean? And I'm like, number one, all these years I've forgotten what she sounded like, but she died in 1990. And it's just like to hear that again was weird. So that's why that piece is, had that in binary code. It's almost like the energy of her voice connecting. We're energy, and energy never dissipates.
Yeah.
So
that energy being sent out to the universe again.
And staying connected.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's one thing to connect here, one thing to connect through your voice, and another thing to connect in that tactile, right? To have it, to touch it. So I want to, whatever I do, I want to connect in all those different levels and layers.
And then the collage is just so intricate and layered. Is it more intuitive process? Like, how are you creating the compositions fully?
Well, I'm obviously a visual person. Everything I do, I have to visualize before I even do it. I can say that, just an example of creating these pieces, I've been visualizing because I have the image in my head of the original photograph. And then I visualize all the stuff I have and how I want it to look. It literally comes to me as a vision. It's extremely intuitive when I get there, but I'm constantly working out the process in my head. I'm constantly seeing myself cut up, laying down, and seeing what it would feel like. You know what I mean? In my head.
Wow.
All happens in my head. So once I get to that piece, I just lay down. So it then becomes, is that going to work laying down like that with this type of glue? Is that the right size? It becomes like, you see it one way, but once you get the physical object in front of you, you want the sizes to match up in whatever form or fashion. So yeah, it's all intuitive, especially once I lay down and start feeling it, literally feeling it. I was on the floor with my mother's piece, because it's so big. And this one, you see the movement within it, and that becomes, again, intuitive as a word.
Yeah.
It's a movement of music.
Yeah. Like or performative in a way.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you were, I wish somebody was videotaping me, so it is almost a performative piece. You're putting it down and getting the glue off my fingers and laying it down and doing whatever, and then finally figuring out how to frame it and enhance it and amplify it with the gold or the silver.
Yeah. And then I guess to wrap up, you kind of mentioned, okay, yeah, we can talk about that too. Okay, before we wrap up, can you talk about the QR code over here? We kind of brushed over the portrait and the augmented reality and the use of that. Yeah, because it's a cool technology that you're kind of drawing from.
I have no problems with any form of AI, and QR code helps embed other information in things for me. So a while ago, I created a film about my grandfather, telling the story and just envisioning him jumping on the back of the car and what that road looked like. So when people scan this, they download Art of Eye, and with that app, you can look at this image and see the roads and see that film that I created for this piece. And it'll stay embedded in that piece.
Yeah.
Only seen through the app. But
no, it's cool to see it because it stays within the frame, and so it's like you're watching a movie that's in the frame of the art piece, but through your phone.
Right. And
so
it has sound to it too.
Yeah.
So it's not just a visual; it's the sound. And you know, it's just another way, because, you know, how do you add more to an exhibition, or how do you add more to a thing when you don't typically have the technology? So it's
Yeah.
an inexpensive way of doing a
Yeah.
film on top of these things.
Yeah, and it makes it interactive. It's this kind of process between you're taking a very old portrait, you're taking collage, which is very analog, adding digital, even the binary kind of element to it. Yeah, all the layers. Yeah. And like, oh, see, now I forgot what I was going to say. That's okay. Oh, yes. So to wrap up, you kind of, and speaking about layers and the collaging and the making and the process, you mentioned that you were still kind of processing the work itself.
Yeah.
How do you see that going? What is that like? Kind of like now that the work is done and it's up and you can kind of sit with it and see how it has become a thing.
Yeah. And I know you guys said my work is extremely personal. Everything I do visually is, I mean, I don't work outside of myself.
Yeah.
I don't talk about subjects that I can't relate to. So it would always be personal. And sitting with it, you know, and still sitting with it, you just say, you know, I don't know how to answer that question. Oh my God, I'm speechless for the first time. I don't know how to answer that, because if I look at it as a whole body, there are more images that I want to do. So I'm already there. You know, I'm already there. What here can I tweak? What other images am I finding that I feel like I can layer? What images do I, you know, because the process, and I can even translate the process if somebody commissioned me to do this for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because the process to me is another way of telling a person's story.
Yeah.
You know, and in a visual way. It's literally, it may be just one chapter of that person's life, you know, but it's that person's story. It's a part of who they are.
Yeah.
Singing through
Yeah.
Would my sister agree? I mean, with that Mercy trilogy, I said, Lisa, if you don't want me to cut up your book, let me know. Seriously, because she was the type of person that I couldn't open her books beyond here, because she didn't want the binding to be compromised. So to cut up the book, that's a whole other bag of beans, right? So it's that too, you know, and because some people are here, some are, you know, are not.
Mm-hmm.
Most people are not here. It's also, you know, like I said, me telling their story on what I get from it, and or me figuring out who they were with the stuff they left.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because of it. So that works both ways. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Continue to sit with that. Continue to, you know, every time I open up something, I pull out, that's I can add there too. I can do a whole other piece about
I mean, it's a process. It's always going to be evolving, and the more you find, or the more you grow or change,
right.
And
yeah, it's a memorial. You know what I mean? It's memorializing who they were, and hoping they get the energy from all this and know that I love them.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm just going to do one more kind of span to wrap up. Thank you all so much for joining us on the live stream. Let me switch my camera back. Ooh, nope.
She's turning it around.
Okay, so we're going to wrap it up right there. Thank you so much, Gina, for giving us this awesome tour and discussion about your work. Next week, we're going to be closed for install, and then we're coming back with Matthew Kurtz and Thomas Smith on February 21st. So keep an eye out for that and that opening. And we'll see you in the next live stream, and hopefully at the gallery as well. Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you for listening.